Joe, when you look at this Tennessee Volunteer team going into the 2025 season, we were all remember the Nico drama and everything that happened there. But when you look at them, and they've got a lot of departures defensively, offensively, there's some new pieces. How do you see the 2025 season going for the Tennessee Volunteers?
Blake, to be very direct, I don't think that this team is a playoff team in 2025. I don't. I think that there is a lot to like. I think that there is a lot of quality, and it's a very well-coached team, and there's weapons. But I feel as though that the Nico situation is going to be such an awful anchor that could hold this team back. And what I mean is not that Nico was the key piece, was the key missing piece to this team getting over, because his performance last year, as we discussed after that whole saga, was incredibly disappointing. Incredibly disappointing. He held them back in some instances. I think that with this quick of a turnaround, trying to figure out who your quarterback is, if Joey Aguilar is the guy, and building your team around him and taking off and ignoring all the drama, I feel like with everything that's happened, there's just such a short window for them to be able to find success, knowing all of the massive pieces that they lost last year, especially defensively to the 2025 draft.
So I'm going to say this, and this is not a shot at anybody. I'm not trying to throw a shot at anybody, but the guys over at that SEC podcast, Mike and Cousin Shane, they do a fantastic job. Awesome stuff in content that they put out. I saw them justifying the Joey Aguilar addition. Like, do I think Joey Aguilar is a bad quarterback? No, I do not. So we all remember one. Well, I mean, that's where I was going. Joey Aguilar, so that's the biggest storyline here. If they had Nico, the question that you would have is, could he take that next step? Could he be the guy that leads them back to the playoff with all the departures that they had? Offensively, can they be better? That would be the question that you would have going into this. The narrative changes because of Joey Aguilar. Now, last 2 years at Appalachian State, he was at 60% completion percentage, 6,700 yards, 56 touchdowns, and 24 interceptions in his time in Boone, North Carolina. Joe, he threw 24 interceptions. 24. What? Like, I don't think Joey Aguilar is a bad player or a bad quarterback. Joe, he was gonna go to UCLA and have issues. He's gonna go to Tennessee and have issues. Now, I mean, Joe, do you think this is a better overall situation than what they had in Nico from on the field? Like, I don't know if I can go there. If he's turnover prone in the G5, you're expecting me for him to go to a P4 and take that next step? That's what you're telling me?
I understand the concern with that. And we talked about this after that move happened, and we broke it down. I don't think you're necessarily getting an upgrade with Joey Aguilar, but I don't think that there's going to be a drop off in play on the field. And I know I kind of just led this in saying that the whole Nico situation is going to hold you back. That's different.
Joe, he had 10 more turnovers though.
I know that he was turnover prone, but I feel like with how this offense is for Heupel, it is going to make the decision making easier for him. This offense doesn't work with timidness, and that was what was wrong with Nico. Nico was incredibly timid, right. Extremely timid, non-decisive. I'm not saying the fact that he had that many turnovers is an indication to me that he is going to work in this offense, but sometimes having a little bit of riskiness in Heupel's approach and just being willing to make a play and get the ball out there, it might work well. This is also going to be the best supporting cast that he's had. He didn't have an App State. He wasn't going to get this at UCLA. He is going to have a better offensive line. He's going to have some pretty good receivers that he can turn to, and it's going to be well schemed and effectively done. I just don't know if when they have big, important games, like when they have to go to Alabama and they host Georgia and they have to go to Florida, those are the three games that I highlight the most. This short of a turnaround at the end of spring ball, when you brought him in and the expectation for him to start, I don't think that's enough time to really build this thing out. build out the offense and get an understanding for him to get fully acclimated, prepared, and ready to go to build the chemistry with the guys around him. That's where the fear comes into play. It has less to do with him as a player.
They were justifying that Tennessee will be fine with Aguilar. Well, that just tells me that you've only looked at the highlights and you haven't looked at the film. Joe, I said this about Garrett Green last year with West Virginia, and their fans were the rootiest of poo, okay, coming after me, coming after my family. But the take still is the same. Joe, what is his completion percentage in 2 years? 60%. Guys, historically, I understand the offense will be different and that number will rise. The problem is that he is deadly inaccurate at moments. There are parts of me that ask if he's going to actually win this job, if I'm being dead honest. Now, I think he will because of the experience. There's a lot of different things. I thought they were going to go after Steve Angeli. Steve Angeli.
No, that's right. Steve Angeli. Okay.
Steve Angeli. I went to school with a Scott Angeli, so I always.
Yeah, no, you got it right.
Okay, finally got it right. I thought that's where they would go, and to be honest with you, I thought that would be a better fit. The play style is going to be completely different on what he does. Joe, no risk it, no biscuit. He don't give a flying shizite about putting the ball up in bad situations. He does not care. It's the complete opposite of what Nico did a year ago. Complete. Kid's a decent athlete. He can do some good things. But along with him, I do look at, Joe, the SEC Player of the Year, and Dylan Sampson's not going to be there. Can their offensive line take a next step? Because there were some issues that they had a year ago. Now, Peyton Lewis is going to be replacing the really talented running back, replacing Dylan Sampson. Joe, to be honest with you there, I don't know if – I don't want to say there's not going to be a drop-off. He's the SEC Player of the Year. But Peyton Lewis is a really good player, and he's a really good back. Mm-hmm. They got to see if Mike Matthews can take that next step. Can Brazel do some of the things that he was doing at Tulane? Then maybe you have something. And maybe Aguilar with Josh Heupel can take down those turnovers. That all can happen. But, Joe, what you're having to say is, I got to replace the SEC Player of the Year. I don't know the level of production I'm going to get at receiver. I also don't know if the offensive line is going to take that next step. And it's not Steve Angeli. Is Joey Aguilar not going to be turnover prone? That's a shitload of questions. That is a shitload of questions that you have to overcome. And here's the truth. You might overcome 2 of them. You ain't overcoming all 4.
Those are a lot of questions, as you're saying. And one other one to add into this, Jermod McCoy suffered a serious injury. I believe it was an ACL during the offseason. I'm really high on Jermod McCoy. He's one of my favorite players in the country, a defensive back, incredibly gifted. I think he's got first-round potential. From my understanding, the timeline of his injury recovery is enough so that he will be back, but I don't know, like, we all know that the transition period back from a serious knee injury, even in the modern medical times that we're in, where guys get back a lot quicker.
6 months at best.
So if he's back, I think it was in January. So if he's back in August, he's probably not going to get fully integrated into drills and everything until like the end of camp. How slow of a return is that for him? And besides all of that is like, what does the secondary look like if he's unavailable or he's a little slow to get going, if the recovery is behind expectation?
Well,
McCoy is a question mark for me too.
Well, in that secondary, okay, listen, you're going up against a team that's going to come in there in week 1 and throw that pill around. Syracuse is going to throw that pill. Now, I know Tennessee fans because I cover SEC baseball, so I know what's about to happen with this Tennessee fan base. They're about to come after us for getting on to them. We were the 2 dudes that said you were going to a playoff last year because we thought that defensively in your front 7 you were good enough, and I do think that they got a lot of massive pieces returning in their front 7. Okay? But you cannot tell me, and you being a Tennessee fan, and that you don't look at it logically and say, listen, Joe, I get what you just said about McCoy and the DB room and everything about that. Joe, they got a lot of pieces returning in that front 7. A lot of good ones. So I got to be real with you. I don't think – look, they might be able to run the football. We're not hating on you. But listen, you do have to overcome a lot. I speaking of being timid, you said Nico was. I'm timid when I see that I have that many question marks on any team. Joe, it's the same question marks that I had about the team that I cover. Think about this. I'm going to throw this out to you. I do think LSU might have some more answers than Tennessee does, but my take about LSU going into the season was exactly the same exact thing about Tennessee. The same exact thing. So I know Tennessee fans will come in here and say that I'm hating on them. I'm not hating on you. Again, we were the two dudes that – Joe, we were like the only two dudes that had him in our playoff in the preseason last year because we believed in him that much.
Right.
I there's too much for me on offense. Defensively, Joe, I look at them. Aaron Carter returns at linebacker. Jeremiah returns at linebacker. What's the status of McCoy? They got some big interior pieces that return. Joe, hot take. So as much as we were kind of poo-pooing on them offensively, hot take. I know James Pierce Jr. is gone. Joe, that front seven that was really good last year, shit. I don't know if they're not going to be good there again. I think they will be good there again too. So I think they will be a lot of. They might look like a lot that they did last year too.
I think that they will be because they were able to rotate a lot of players in and they were able to get a lot of different bodies in, which means that despite losing, I think they lost like 2 to 3 guys that were relatively highly drafted players, like Norman Lott's gone, and they had a couple of the guys that were UDFAs. But that talent that was on the field last year, those contributions are going to be important. I have 2 final thoughts with this. I think that getting rid of Nico is going to clear up a massive cloud. Like I really think that it was seemingly a distraction, and I think that distraction is now dead, and you can now just focus on football. And I think it could end up being a serious rallying point. I believe a lot in Josh Heupel. I really like Josh Heupel as a coach.
I do too.
And I think he's going to be able to rally the troops. Their schedule allows for them to go 9-3. I think that they're going to be a 9-3 team. But Blake, when you have to host Georgia, you go to Alabama and you go to Florida with the rest of your easy games on your schedule and not a lot of difficult road matchups, 9-3 is your most realistic outcome here. 9-3 is going to be my projection for them.
Whew. I don't know. Joe, again, if Joe, last thing for me here, if Joey Aguilar is not as turnover prone, then I think they'll be fine. If he is turnover prone, and Joe, if he averages the 12 interceptions like he did the last 2 seasons, they're not winning 9 games.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot turn the ball over that much and win that many games. You can't. It's not possible. Joe, they would have to think about how teams in these bigger conferences, if you give them the ball that much. I mean, it's what we talk about with Nussmeier. It's what we talked about with Ewers. Joe,
right.
Why
quarterback play is paramount. It's
paramount,
so important
brother.
for team success.
Without a doubt. So miss me.